Today I will be removing a very small chip from this PCB using a hot air gun, and it's definitely very intricate work here. Basically, there is a short somewhere underneath that chip, maybe the thermal pad. Some of that solder leaked onto the nearby pads, so I need to remove it and see what's going on underneath. You can see that there's this yellow tape that I've put all over the board. It's called Kapton tape. It's a high temperature material, so it won't melt like duct tape or electrical tape or masking tape or something. It holds up to the heat much better. So I've covered up all the components because I don't want anything to shift or blow away while I'm doing this. I just want to aim the hot air gun right at U2, and then we're going to do a little test to see how long it takes to get this piece of solder to melt. So this is just something you can do with your air tool. So I have a timer. I'm just going to start the timer the moment that I turn the air on and see how long it takes to get the solder to melt. That will give me an idea for how close I have to hold it before I actually go to the board, because I don't want to be sitting here for 5 minutes meanwhile the PCB is delaminating and being destroyed or damaging the chip. So I just want enough time to melt the solder, and then if I have to, I'll pull away and try again once it's cooled a bit. So here we go. Okay, so after about 7 seconds, it drooped over, and by 10 seconds, it was fully melted, and I was probably around 2 inches away from, about that much distance from the solder. So if I do the same over here, then I should expect that after about 10 seconds, I can come in with my tweezers and just very gently remove the chip. I will probably have my tweezers lightly pressing down on it just to make sure it doesn't blow away. It's such a light component that could happen. Okay, so here's 10 seconds. Okay, so I couldn't quite do it, so I'm going to let everything cool off and then try again. I haven't been able to remove it. This time I'm going to try a spring-loaded clip. It's squeezing the chip. It will wick the heat away from the chip. It might actually make it more difficult to remove it, but it will make it harder to damage the chip, and when it does come loose, I'll have an easier handle on removing it. The tweezers got too hot for me to touch, and the chip still did not come off. Look how tiny it is. See how the thermal pad, which is supposed to be a square, is kind of going upward towards those two pins? It's actually connected to both of them, so I need to remove a little bit of solder. But first, here's the chip way down here. Come down here. I need to pick that up carefully and not blow it away. Look how tiny it is. Let's put this in a safe location. I've got this little container. I'm just going to drop him in there. I had to pull a little bit harder than I was expecting. Well, I should be careful when I say that because you can damage the chip if you pull too hard, but I had to overcome the surface tension of the molten solder. But what cued me in is I saw tiny little bubbling and shimmering going on those pins. I don't know how I saw it because they're so small, but I did, and that's when I knew that the solder, at least on the outside pins, were melting, and that's when I started working at it. So definitely pay attention to whenever the solder starts to go shiny, and if it is bubbling or something, or it might not be bubbling, it might just be moving around in response to the blast of air. So look for that, and then just gently rotate your kind of peel it off the board. And I did lose grip of it for a moment, and I almost lost it onto the ground. Thankfully, it didn't go very far. But if you can, I mean, the more times you do it, you'll get better at keeping it.